Hello, I'm now going to record Daf Kuf Beis. We'll start with the Mishnah on top of Kuf Beis Amud Aleph. Mishnah says, Hazoyrik, if somebody throws an object, Arba Amas B'Shus Arabim, V'nizkar Me'achar Sheyatzasa Miyodai, and after it left his hand, he realized that it's Shabbos. The Mishnah continues, which the Gemara will explain better. Kolota Acher, if somebody else catches it in midair and let's say runs either towards it or away from it or further, or klota kelev, or a dog caught it in his mouth, or shanisr, for it got burnt, so the man is potter. But it seems like the Mishnah is mixing two different ideas here. One idea where he realized that it's Shabbos before it landed, and the other is that the landing was not done by the one who threw it. Mishnah continues, Zorak lasas chabur, if he throws an object on Shabbos to injure someone, bein ba'odam bein b'behema, a man or animal, v'nizkar atshal nasas chabura, before it actually caused the injury, he remembers that it's Shabbos. So he's potter because he wasn't a shaygig at the end. Ze'aklal, the rule is, as the Mishnah called, chayav v'chatois ein chayavim ad shetei tchilosim v'soifan shgoga. To be chayav v'chatos, you have to be a shaygig from the beginning until the end. If it was tchilosan shgoga v'soifan zoden, if in the beginning he was a shaygig, but in the end he realized it's Shabbos, or Tchilosan Zoden, the Akira was done b'mezid, but V'soifan, the Hanocha was done b'shaygig, your Pturin, your Potter, Achetei Tchilosan V'soifan Shgoga. It has to be beginning and end of the Malacha in a consistent shaygig. The Gemara points out that the Mishnah in the beginning was unclear. The Mishnah says it's because a dog or somebody else, or a dog or a fire, got to it before the Hanocha. That's why you're potter. Hanocha, but if it would have landed where you wanted, you'd be chayiv. But v'loi nizkar, but since he remembered before the hanocha, shouldn't that already make him potter from achatos? It's not, but the Mishnah says, Kol chayav echatois ein chayavim ad shetei tchilosim v'soifan shgoga. That to be chayav echatos, you have to be shaygig for the beginning to the end. So just the fact that he remembered before the end, that in itself should make him potter from achatos. So the Gemara tries to answer a few times, but in vain. Omer of Kana says, maybe Seifa Asan Lalachta Umesna. Maybe the Seifa is speaking about a piece of wood that has a rope attached to it. And therefore, if he would have remembered when he threw the wood, he would have remembered that the Seifa where it says that he has to be a shagig from the beginning to the end, is speaking where it's a piece of wood with a rope. So if it's a piece of wood with a rope, you have to be shaygig all the way to the end, because in the middle, if you realize that it's Shabbos, you can always pull it back. So maybe the Mishnah only insists that you have to be a shaygig from beginning to the end only if it's reversible before the end. Then you have to be shaygig till the end. But in the Reisha, where you threw it and it's out of your hand, maybe there you don't have to be a shaygig from the beginning to the end, because once you threw it, it's out of your control. The Gemara says, Lachta misna agda biyadahu. If the seif is talking where you have a stick with a rope attached to it, then even if it lands, you're going to be potter, because the other end of the object you threw is still in your hand. So even if you're shaygig from the beginning to the end, you're still potter, because you have the other end of the object you threw in your hand. The Gemara says, well, maybe kagayin she nischav lasas chabura. Maybe we're talking about a stick with a rope in your hand, and you threw the stick in order to injure someone. And therefore, since you still have the rope in your hand, you're potter in case you realize it's Shabbos before it hit, because at that point you could call it back. Mashenkin in the Reisha, you're talking where you threw something out of your hand, and therefore since you can't call it back, you're chayiv even if you remember when it's in the air. But Honami Tanina, but the Mishnah talked about that already. Hazarik lasas chabura bein ba'odam bein b'behema, v'nizkar shalas nasas chabura potter. The Mishnah says if you threw something to injure a man or animal, and you realize before it made the injury that it's Shabbos, you're potter. So what is the Mishnah talking about? You have to be a shaygig from beginning to the end, and why in the Reisha is a mashma that if you're shaygig in the beginning, even though you weren't a shaygig at the end, you'll still be chayiv, even if you're amazed at the end. Because in the Reisha it said the only reason you were potter is because the hanocha was made either by somebody else or a dog or a furnace. Elam Rava, so Rava tries the last attempt and say maybe we're talking about b'mavir. Maybe the seif of the Mishnah is talking where you're walking. So if you're walking, you have to be a shaygig from the beginning to the end. Because if you're amazed in the middle, then you could have stopped yourself. But the Reisha is talking about a zayrik. A zayrik, once it leaves your hand, you can't call it back. So maybe there you don't have to be a shaygig all the way to the end. The fact you're a shaygig in the beginning is good enough. Fragt die Gemara, "V'hazeh klal ktani, the ktani azrika ktani." But the end of the Mishnah is saying zeh klal. It's a synopsis of everything the Mishnah talked about before. And in the end, the Mishnah says you have to be a shaygig from the beginning to the end. So the chayr in the beginning of the Mishnah also you have to be a shaygig from the beginning to the end. So why did the Mishnah say the reason why your potter is because the hanacha was done by somebody else or a dog or a furnace? So the Gemara stops struggling. He says, "Ela merav tarti ktani." There's two distinct separate halachas. Hazayrik v'nisker mi'achar shiyatsa miyadai. If somebody throws an object b'shaygig and after it left his hand he realizes that it's Shabbos, so he's going to be potter. Inami or shalai nisker, he would have been a shaygig from the beginning to the end. But v'kol ta'achar ekol tekel v'shenisrfa, or the hanacha was done by another person, or a dog caught it, or it got burnt. In those cases, you're potter. So enochanami, the Mishnah is pottering you for two different reasons. Either you're potter because you realized before the hanacha happened that it's Shabbos, or the hanacha was done by someone else. Rav Ashi has a different way to explain the Mishnah. Chasuri mechaser v'chiktani. The Mishnah is missing some words, but it's the same idea. Hazayrik v'nizker mi'achar shiyatsa miyadai. If somebody throws something and before it lands, he realizes it's Shabbos, but kol ta'achar kol tekel v'shenisrfa, and the hanacha was done by another person, or by a dog, or by a fire, you're potter. Hanacha, but if it would have landed, you'd be chayiv. You know why? By medvar mamurim, you'd only be chayiv when it landed shechazer v'shachach, because again you were a shaygig at the hanacha. So if you were a shaygig in the akira and a shaygig in the hanacha, but you were aware while it was in midair, that doesn't matter. But of course, if you are amazed even at the hanacha, you're potter, because shekol chay v'chatois ein chayavin ad sheteich tichilosim v'sayv v'shgaga. Because to be chay v'chatos, you have to be shaygig from the beginning to the end. So what we assumed in the beginning of the Mishnah is what the Gemara's conclusion is, that to be chay v'chatos, you have to be a shaygig from the beginning to the end. If the hanacha is done by somebody else, of course you're potter. But by the way, if you are a shaygig during the akira and the hanacha, and you are aware in the middle, you're not going to be, you're still chayiv, a chatos. Zeh klal, the rule is kol chayav v'chatois. Whoever is chayiv v'chatos is only chayiv if he's a shaygig from beginning to the end. Itmer, it was said, shtei amas b'shaygig, shtei amas b'mezid, and shtei amas b'shaygig. Somebody moved an object, we'll see how, for 6 amas. First 2 is shaygig, middle 2 is mezid, and last 2 is shaygig. Is Rab Amar Potter and Rav Amar Chayiv. Rabba says you're Potter and Rav says you're Chayiv. Rab Amar Potter, Rabba says you're Potter. There's a machlekes coming up in a few dafim from now. If somebody wrote one letter on Shabbos, then they realized it's Shabbos, then he forgot again it's Shabbos, and he wrote the other letter. So Afilu Rav Gamliel da Amar ein yediyah l'chatzi shir. Rav Gamliel holds becoming aware that it's Shabbos between one letter and the other is not called the yediyah, and the 2 letters add up. Hasam there the chigamar shiura b'shaygig kagamar, because there when you wrote the first letter you were shaygig, and when you wrote the second letter you were shaygig, and the yediyah in the middle doesn't count. So therefore Gamliel holds your chayiv. Aval hacha here b'mezid loy, but here when you did amos 3 and 4, that's when the arba amos is finished. So when you finished the arba amos, you did it in a state of mezid. So therefore you're not chayiv a chatas for amos 3 and 4. Therefore, 1 and 2 that were done b'shaygig also become cancelled, and therefore Rabba holds your potter from a chatas. Ubemai, but in which case? Izayrik, if he threw it from 1 to 6, shaygig hu, l'chayri is a shaygig. Why? Because since he couldn't call it back when it's in mid-air, so as long as it was a shaygig on the akira and a shaygig on the hanacha, he should be chayv chatas. What happened in mid-air is irrelevant. Rather, Rabba's talking b'maver where you walk. So he walks from Amma 1 to Amma 6, and 3 and 4 is b'mezid. So when he got to 4, he was amazed. And at that point, you could have stopped. So therefore, when you finished Amma 4 b'mezid, you're not going to be chayv v'chatas. On the other hand, Rava Amar Rava says you're chayv v'chatas, afilu l'Rabbanan. Even according to the Rabbanan, the Amri yesh yediyah l'chatzi shir. The Rabbanan said, if you wrote a letter and then you realized that it's Shabbos, and then you forgot again and you wrote the other letter, so you're potter. But hasam hu de biyadai, because there when you wrote letter number 1 and you realized it's Shabbos, you could stop. So therefore that breaks up the first letter from the second letter with the yediyah in the middle. Aval hacha, but here when you threw it, ein biyadai, you can't call it back. So if you can't call it back, loy, the chum agree that you're going to be chayiv. Ubemayin, in what case? Iba mavir, if you're walking, hare biyadai. When you're walking and you got to arba amas, is the same as writing 1 letter. Just like when you write 1 letter, you could stop there. When you're walking, when you get to arba amas, you can stop there too. Ela rather, Rava is speaking bezayrik. So to make a synopsis of this, there's no machlokes in the end between Rabba and Rava. Rabba is talking where you walk from Amma 1 to Amma 6, 1 and 2 b'shaygig, 3 and 4 b'mezid, and 5 and 6 b'shaygig. So he says you're potter, because when you got to 3 and 4, when you did 4, you finished it in a state of mezid, and finishing in a state of mezid is not chayev echatas. Even according to Rav Gamliel, who says writing one letter and then realizing it's Shabbos, and writing another letter, it will add up. That's because when you wrote letter number 2, you wrote both letters in a state of shaygig. But here, when you came to Amma number 4 and you finished the Arba Amas, you were in a state of mezid, and therefore you're not chayev a korban. Rav is talking where you threw it from 1 to 6. So if you threw it from 1 to 6, you made an akira b'shaygig and anocha b'shaygig. Even though Amas 3 and 4 were b'mezid, that doesn't matter. And even though according to the Rabbanan you're potter, that's because according to the Rabbanan you made a yediyah where you could have stopped between one letter and the other. But here when you threw it and you had a yediyah at the end of Amas 3 and 4, you couldn't have stopped it. Amar Rava says, Zorak v'nacha b'fi kelev b'fi kivshin chayiv. If you throw an object and it caught in a dog's mouth or a furnace, you're chayiv. Hanan Tanan, in our Mishnah it says, Kol ta'achar, a kol ta'kelev, a shenisrif a potter. In our Mishnah it says, if somebody else makes the hanacha, or the dog catches it, or it gets burnt, you're potter. And for the Gemara, Hosam d'lay mechavim. If you didn't intend for somebody else to catch it, or you didn't intend for the dog to catch it, or the fire to burn it, so then you're potter. Because that's not called a hanacha, but hocha d'ka mechavim. If you're mechaven and you give the dog's mouth a chashivas of dalet al dalet, or the furnace a chashivas of dalet al dalet, it becomes considered a hanacha. Amar of Bibi Barabaya Fanan Amitinina. He says, I have a raya that you can be machshivit as a dalet al dalet, because there's a Mishnah increases. Yesh oichel achila achas. You can eat one kezayis. V'chayv ale arba chatois v'oshem echad. You can be chayv 4 korbanos chatas and an oshem. Case is a convoluted case. A man is atame, he's tame, shachal chaylev, wait chaylev, who noiser, which is noiser and amigdashim from a carbon, b'yom kippur and yom kippur. Let's add it up. If it's yom kippur, so it's mezid koris, shkigosei chatas. Noiser, b'mezid is koris, shkigosei chatas. Chaylev, b'mezid is koris, shkigosei chatas. And a tame eating kodshim is b'mezid koris, shkigosei chatas. And being kodshim, it's also me'ilah. So you also have an asham me'ilas. So you have 4 chatois and an asham me'ilas. If it's Shabbos and he carries it out in his mouth, he's chayv another one because it's a chatos for chil Shabbos. Amrullah, they said, Einim and Hashem, don't mix anything in here. We're talking about eating and don't mix in carrying. But l'chayrev amai, why are you chayv when you carry it out? It's not normal to carry things in your mouth. But since you intend to eat it, I think what Rashi is saying is he's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The problem is we once said that when you carry something in your mouth, if you carry your watch out in your mouth, it's only a derabanan. But because watches don't belong in a mouth, but food does belong in a mouth, so that becomes the derech haitzah. But there's another problem that your mouth is not a dalet al dalet. So therefore, or your throat is not a dalet al dalet. So how do you have a hanocha b'dalet al dalet? Why you chayiv? The Teretz is your machshava makes it a dalet al dalet. So your machshava makes it normal, and your machshava makes it a dalet al dalet. Hachinami, if a guy throws a bone or a stick to a dog, or you throw something into a furnace, machshavta, his intent to throw it to the dog or the furnace, mishavile makes it a mokam, which is roy la'anocha, and therefore you're chayiv. But if it inadvertently goes into the dog of a mouth or a furnace, then our Mishnah says that you're potter. So I'm going to record part 1 now.